Hello, welcome to my channel. I am going to do a overview of my month of October and actually the first week of November, because let me tell you, that first week, the whole month of October was super busy. So I'm actually going to place this video on my vlog channel, Desert Dream Vlog, and my Cozy Reads with Sarah channel, because I'm gonna just include it all. October was super busy. My husband finished the farmer's market in Roswell. He wrapped that up, selling his Lenormand deck and art prints. His last day was Saturday, October 12th. On that Sunday, we went to Manzano Mountain Retreat Harvest Festival in Torreon, New Mexico. So it was up north. It was a pretty nice day, but it was really windy, and they didn't let us pick apples, which was kind of a bummer, but we heard musicians play, which was fun. They were really good. I'll insert a clip. And we had hard apple cider while listening to them play, and we just, hung out, walked around. We saw the farm animals, and we bought a bunch of apples. It's November 9th today, and we are still eating apples. We have 1.5 apples left, so that is amazing. So overall, it was a fun day. I think we went up to Alburquerque. It wasn't too far away from Albuquerque, so we went to Albuquerque after to do some things. And then we had, in Roswell, we had a major storm that flooded parts of downtown, and some people lost everything. Some people were really wet, but unfortunately a lot of the public spaces like the Roswell Museum, the Convention Center, and the Adult Center are still being cleaned out, and some buildings, like, I'm not sure, there was a car dealership and right next to it, like, that whole building has been demolished. I should go try to get another picture, but I don't know if I will. But some businesses, anything that was like right around along what they call a river, which is usually there's nothing there, totally over flooded, totally destroying priceless pieces of art that were in the museum and people's homes and personal items, and it's just really sad. I think it was yesterday on the 8th, we saw trucks going along and picking up what people had out on their front yards that they couldn't salvage. We had that happen on the 20th and like the 21st, so it was really early in the morning, actually, on the 21st, well, overnight. And we went to Wendy's because I got confused between Wendy's and Burger King. But I tried their Krabby Patty and it was really boring and lame. And I wish I'd taken pictures, but I didn't because there was really nothing special about it. They just called it a Krabby Patty and it was just normal. There was no special packaging, nothing. It was totally, it's lame. And then we went to Burger King actually I think we went on Halloween, and I tried Wednesday's burger, and that was cool because it's the burger is actually black and it has special packaging that's actually the Addams Family packaging, which is cool. If you're gonna try one of the Krabby Patty or Wednesday's burger, get Wednesday's burger at Burger King, way better. We went to a friend's Halloween party and then we went around. You saw my videos checking out Halloween displays. We also went to Meow Wolf Halloween in Santa Fe, which you hopefully saw that video that I posted on my Desert Dream vlog. We watched a bunch of Halloween movies, like we watched Scream 5 and 6. We watched Hubie Halloween, which I love Hubie Halloween. It's one of my favorites. I read a whole lot. I read more in October than I read any other month. The only other month that kind of even comes close is July. And in July, I read 8 books. And in October, I read 13 books. I did have a few DNFs, and I'm actually going to include books for the first week of November in this review because I was just so busy. Oh, yes, and I was doing Indigo Dying. I can't say the Shirobi or something. It's a Japanese name. My husband and I took a class at the Roswell Museum to learn how to do this traditional Japanese tie-dyeing with indigo, all natural indigo dye, and it's a lot of fun, but the dye smells like sulfur. It's very stinky and you don't want to do it in your house, and it's been so rainy and so wet, and me personally, I want that dye outside. I don't want it in my house, and we mixed it up in our kitchen and whew, stunk. But I will show pictures of the dye here. I have more scarves to dye. I'm looking into buying some clothes maybe next year at the Roswell farmers market. I'll sell some scarves, but for now the scarves that I have are going to be Christmas presents for people. So I have a few more scarves to do, and hopefully our dye holds up. I haven't checked it. Like I said, it's just been really rainy, really wet, and a really cold fall. I'm including not just the 13 books from October, but I'm also going to include the 2 other books from the first week of November in this. I read, including the first week of November, I'm including 3 DNFs. I DNF'd right in the beginning of October the Badass Librarians of Timbuktu by Joshua Hammer. I DNF'd that at 55%. I will link my video about this book here. You can watch that video. And then that's where I did not keep up with my individual videos. The other book I DNF'd was a anthology of short stories, and I got this during a Stuff Your Kindle event. So it was a free book, so I'm not too upset about not finishing this. And you know what? I may read it next year. I just have so many books on my fall TBR that is a little overwhelming. I'll probably just take a picture of it, but yeah, see, it's on my Kindle. And I decided to DNF it because I just found myself reading a page or 2 and then just, I didn't feel like it. I felt like it was putting me in a reading slump. So that's not good. You don't want to go in a reading slump. And I've been reading a lot. I've been reading for over 130 days straight. And another book I DNF'd was this graphic novel called Moonstruck by Grace Ellis. And it looks like Shea Beagle. And this little graphic novel is a hot mess. It's about these 2, and these 2 right here. Sorry, you probably couldn't see it. And it's supposed to really be about her. She's the protagonist, and a friend of hers who worked in a coffee shop. But she's never in the coffee shop, and she's lives in this magical world that sounds so amazing, and she doesn't like her magical abilities. She kind of has a lot of self-hate. So it starts out with her and her coworker talking in the coffee shop, and you just see like how magical, like you see the people doing tarot readings, and you see all the mythical creatures. So I'm going to read the back. Monsters, romance, and magical hijinks, oh my. In the little college town of Blithton, fantasy creatures live cozy, normal lives right alongside humans and werewolf barista Julie strives to be the most normal of all, and she really does, and she hates her magical abilities and hates being a werewolf. And I found it really tiring. But all heck breaks loose when she and her new girlfriend, Selena, go on a disastrous first date that ends with a magician casting a horrible spell on their friend Chet. Now it's up to the team of Mystical Palace to stop the illicit illusionist before it's too late. If it was just that story, it would be great. But it's about how Julie and Selena bond over their favorite book. And it kind of is like a Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley High kind of hybrid book. So they have this comic going on. It's called Pleasant Mountain Sister Super Solver Mystery, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, Betsy Baxton. And so you have their favorite book, the protagonist and her soon-to-be, hopefully, girlfriend. We get that too. And then on top of that, that's not all. We just meet people like off the street as she's walking around, which she's always walking around. I don't know why she's always walking around. And everyone's angry. Everyone she meets in this cool, magical, it could be like so cozy, and everyone's angry and yelling and so aggressive. When I read a cozy fantasy, I don't want aggression. Like, I read to escape. Then we have, along the way, Ask a Know-It-All. And it's so random. So you have these silly, stupid Ask a Know-It-All. So it's like, Dear Know-It-All, I love my husband, but I am also in love with his secretary. How do I best introduce the idea of a polyamorous relationship? Polly Wally Canoodle. Dear Polly, it sounds like you've got yourself into a real pickle. Have you considered seducing them both with your siren song and then drowning them? I found that works wonders. So, yeah, it's stuff like that. I don't know. I don't love the artwork. The story is not cohesive. It's broken up, and they just have you meet characters. Characters are introduced. I feel like I'm walking in on the middle of something, like that I'm missing something, and this is the first in the series. So how am I missing something? But that's how I felt, and so there was no flow, too much aggression, and it wasn't good. So I DNF'd this. Again, I literally threw this across the room because I was so frustrated with it. All right, and then moving on to 2-star reviews. I had gotten on Chirp for a good deal, Candy Corn Murder by Leslie Meier. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, good thing it's called Candy Corn because it was the corniest story I've ever read. Now, this was very, very cozy. I gave it 2.5 stars. I was generous because it was very fall autumny, and the protagonist wasn't horrible, but she was very naive for being a wife and mother. She was very naive. Now, this wasn't the first, and I haven't read any other books by this author. I will not read any books. It only took me 2 days to get through the audiobook. It's a quick read. I wrote that it was unengaging, predictable, unsatisfying ending, bad writing, and of course easy to read. What a boring book with awkward dialogue, cliche names, and mundane daily life. The mystery was uninspired. The only saving grace was how quick a read this was. Courtney Clark, Old MacDonald's Farm, pumpkins being murdered, old-fashioned ideas about weed, a naive housewife reporter. I couldn't stand how mundane it was all, and uninspired. Needless to say, I won't continue the series. So that was my review on Fable of Candy Corn Murder. Not a fan. Maybe if I was older and had children and lived in a very boring small town, I would have been engaged. But it was mainly about the protagonist, and she is watching her her grandson, while her son and his wife go overseas to study or research. And she has to take her grandson to daycare, and the daycare instructor or teacher, whatever, what have you, is a know-it-all and a mean girl and very bossy. And the kid can't have peanut butter and can't have sugar and can't have this and can't have that. And she's an older mom. All her kids are grown up, so she's just like, what am I supposed to give my grandson if he can't have peanut butter and he can't have this and he can't have that, he can't have carrot sticks? So it was a lot of that. There was that clash between the protagonist and this teacher, and that was like the main story. And then you have another story going on where a woman is being abused and she's being locked in her husband's home and she can't leave. And so there's kind of two stories in one. The second story of that story was more engaging because you want to know, does she escape? How does she escape? How does she gain freedom from her husband and his family? And what happens? But yeah, it just, so if you have grandchildren and you're dealing with that, someone who thinks they know better than you about your children or your grandchildren, then maybe you'll relate. I know that there's people out there in schools out there like that, so maybe you'll find that cathartic. The second 2-star review was also along the theme of autumn. It was called Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, and I'm pretty sure I got that one from the library. Let me read you the review. This took me 7 days to read. It took me way longer than it should have, especially since it's not a long book. It's pretty short. It's only 336 pages. And it's definitely YA. It's sold as like a enemies to lovers, but there's no spice in the book. There's very little flirting. And it's not even enemies to lovers. It's more like enemies to friends. And there's no reason why the two should have even became friends or had a relationship, because the main protagonist, the main girl, was such a brat. So it says about Gilmore Girls fans, pour yourselves a hot cup of tea and get ready to fall in love with this cozy YA romance that will have you dreaming of autumn all year long. So it takes place in a charming New England village. 16-year-old Lucy Kane hates the uber popular pumpkin spice latte. She finds it overrated, especially when you consider the fact that there isn't even any pumpkin in it, which is bad because she works at Cup of Joe, the local coffee shop her mom owns. And then Java Junction comes in across the street, and they're famous for their pumpkin spice latte. And she finds out that the new guy in school that she has a crush on and has been daydreaming over, is the owner's son. So she just goes out of her way to be a little bitch to him. And all Jack does, his name is Jack, all Jack Harper does is go out of his way to be very nice to her, and even offering to help her create her own pumpkin spice latte. I gave this book 2 stars, and that's really generous. It's just because the beginning of the book, I liked the protagonist. She made me laugh. It was funny. And then she just became obnoxious. I wrote, this book started out strong, making me laugh. The autumn vibes were there, but the main female character, Lucy, was so unlikable and mean. The first half of the book, she was snapping at everyone and angry about the chemicals in pumpkin spice latte. And then in the second half of the book, she's in a daze or haze. Like, that's the whole book. She's in a daze or haze. She's so worried about her mom's coffee shop. Is Cup of Joe gonna survive? Can they survive by not having a pumpkin spice latte? Okay. She doesn't sound or act like a 16-year-old. She doesn't sound like a child of this current generation either. It was definitely not believable. She doesn't do social media. She doesn't watch YouTube. Jack watches like a few YouTube videos and then helps her create this. And of course, that's at the end of the book. Spoilers. I should put spoilers up here. I mean, there's conflict for no reason. Totally not believable. She's rude to everyone, including her friends. I'm not sure how she has any friends. There isn't really any romance, just enemies to friends. One-dimensional characters, unlikable, cliched, unrealistic, clear but uninspired, easy to read, repetitive, and simplistic. Like I said, the second half of the book, she's in a haze. She sounds like a 90-year-old woman. I have like screenshots. Let me see if I can read them to you guys. I have receipts. I hate read the book. I literally hate read this book. So there's another bakery in town. The Cup of Joe is where the protagonist, she bakes and she creates these amazing pies and cakes. And she doesn't go out of her way to be mean to the other local bakery, Briar's Bakes. And it's like, why not? They're your competition too. So Harper wants her to help him learn how to cook. Like, he doesn't know how to cook, and he thinks she's an amazing baker, and so he wants her to teach him. And he's trying to like measure out a cup of milk, and she flips out at him. Because he's like, oh well, it's close enough, and she writes, this is her, close enough, I sputter. There is no close enough in baking. Baking is a science. Every single part of it. A recipe can totally change, even by the way you stir the ingredients. Side-eyeing you. The temperature of the ingredients, and certainly by how much of the ingredients you use. All right, he says, I got it. He puts the measuring cup back on the counter, pours in more cream. And of course, then he says something about a smidge, and she flips out about a smidge. Like, he's trying so hard, and she's just has to be a bitch. And like, he's being so nice, like helping her. And she even brings that up. She's like, aren't our businesses competitors? I ask. Something else suddenly occurs to me. You aren't doing this because you feel bad for me, are you? Because I told you we do not need your charity. He looks hurt. Lucy, I'm doing it because I care about you. Your business. It's not her business. It's not his business. I don't know. It just bugs me. It's your parents' businesses. And why does Jack care about Lucy so much? I mean, she's been nothing but a bitch to him. Like, right off the bat, she throws pie in his face. And that becomes a joke throughout the book. So anyway, I do not agree with Lucy. Lucy, baking is not a science. It's an art. And the main ingredient should be love. And yeah. Do you know how many recipes I have messed up on, put things in the wrong order, done things wrong, and it still comes out great. It comes out probably better than if I followed the recipe. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think that she read more like my 90-year-old grandmother when she would try to teach me how to do anything, and everything had to be done. Like, it just seems unrealistic. But I know that there's people out there like that who think that everything has to be perfect. Anyway, gave it 2 stars. Annoying main female character. Jack Harper was too good to be true. He deserved better. Don't be a people pleaser. Don't be a pushover. Like, you don't have to befriend the mean girl. All right, and then we go into 3 stars. I had 4 3-star reads in October. I had Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. It was a nice and creepy gothic travel book. Female lead character travels to Italy to be with her family on vacation, and she is the black sheep of the family. And it's about how cruel, especially her older sister, is to her and her twin brother and her family. And she keeps saying, let's leave this haunted house. It's creepy things are happening, and nobody wants to listen to her. I really enjoyed the first half of the book while they're in Italy. I didn't enjoy the second half of the book. I felt like it needed a major editing down, paring down. I mean, it shows as she's losing her mind, literally, how dirty and gross. Like, I could smell this woman through the screen. Literally could smell her through the screen. I felt dirty. She stopped showering. She stopped washing her hair. She, is afraid of everything. She's literally losing her mind. I wrote, I enjoyed the first half of the book. The spooky vibes were there, but the story became repetitive and could have been edited down by 100 pages. There's misogyny, violence, multi-layered, suspenseful, dark, and original. So Diavola, it says, Anna embarks on an annual paced family vacation enduring the dysfunction and eccentricities of her relatives. But when strange happenings occur in their villa in Monteperso, a dark past is uncovered. This sly, wickedly funny vacation gothic explores family dynamics and the bonds of family mythology. Warning, may invoke irritation, dread, and despair felt at large family gatherings. And yes, it did. It reminds me of why I don't go to large family gatherings. I just opt out. So if you have a toxic family and you're triggered by toxic family dynamics, maybe just knew that before going in. It's creepy, it's cool, but it can be difficult in parts to read. Then I read Coraline by Neil Gaiman. That was a 3-star. I read the book after seeing the movie. I have watched the movie so many times. I prefer the movie to the book. I felt the pacing of the graphic novel of middle grade. I just felt like it was off. Maybe if I had read the book when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it better, but I gave it 3 stars. It's Midland, nothing great, nothing special. If you've seen the movie, to me, the movie's better, but you know what? To each their own. There's a lot of people out there who like the book better. They think it's creepier. Then I read Rosemary's Baby. Well, actually, I listened to it on audio from the library. I gave that 3 stars, and that's another gothic read. Misogyny, assault of the sex kind, gaslighting, medical gaslighting, murder. All these things are in this book. Again, it could be considered mundane, but there's enough happening and enough lore and suspense and mystery that it doesn't feel as boring as it felt in the candy the corny murders, because that's what I'm going to refer to that book as, the corny murders. Anyway, so I only gave the book 3 stars because it just, it's dated, so a lot of the references I didn't get or understand. A lot of the pop culture, I didn't know who they're talking about. So it is a very dated book. And then also they start chanting, and I don't like my books or my TV shows to chant certain things. I don't want to invite that into my domain. So for me, it's just not my type of book. I know that medical gaslighting and abuse happen. We actually watched, and it seems and I keep reading stories, things that keep coming up, retellings or updated tellings of Rosemary's Baby, Shining Veil. They go into that, and I think Shining Veil, did it better. I really like that show. I'm sad that they canceled it after season 2. And we watched this movie, and it was again an updated version of this. False positive. So Lucy, another Lucy, she's happily married, and her husband have been trying to get pregnant for years, and she can't. And so she goes to this specialist, and she gets pregnant. And then a lot of the same gaslighting and creepy things happen. And I know the critics and reviewers kind of panned it, but I think that I personally like the message and just how society treats women as just incubators. We're not human. We don't deserve to be treated as humans. Our pain, our fear, our needs for support isn't taken seriously. Doctors just dismiss. Your friends sometimes do too. Society as a whole does, right? They're you're supposed to believe this, and this is supposed to happen, and you can't deviate outside of that. And just these themes, and women's intuition and knowing when something's not right and being gaslit. Like, everything's fine, everything's fine. And finding out that the husband, the man that you married, is really a monster and doesn't view you as a woman, or a human being, they view you as just an incubator. Just watching and seeing all of these movies and these books, it just makes me very happy that I'm child-free. I'm also, right now, I'm currently reading Never Whistle at Night, which is an anthology of, like, mythologies and ghost stories from Native writers. And there was one story, which story was this? White Hills. And I could see where it was going. I knew it was going to happen, and I was right. And the internalized misogyny and racism inherent in the protagonist of this story is just so sad. Again, very, very Rosemary's Baby. Anytime you have a book or a movie or show that has to do with controlling women's reproductive rights or when or how they have children, I'm going to always compare it to Rosemary's Baby. So, even though the references are dated in that book, I want to read everything by this author. I want to read everything. So I wrote this book, had a lot of references that I didn't know. I usually listen to audiobooks at 1.5 to 2 times speed, but I couldn't with this book. I knew the premise. I love Gothic novels, but this one I wanted more. The fear and discomfort of pregnancy was not fully captured. I would love to see a woman write a version of this book. Hutch was my favorite character. I saw all the inspiration that Shining Vale took from this book. Honestly, I enjoyed the show Shining Vale more than this book. The protagonist was too naive, too trusting. I wanted her to trust herself and leave her husband. I am happy we have the internet now and understand the dangers of gaslighting. It's too difficult for me to read this book and fully understand. I am sure at the time this book made sense. The book isn't gory or really scary. The last 30% had me enthralled. Like, I couldn't put it down. I wanted to keep reading. The scariest parts are in the last 3 chapters. I'm going to go listen to some Gregorian chants now, which I did. Like I said, I wanted to cover myself. All right. And then another book that I gave 3.5 stars, which I know this is a beloved book, is Kiki's Delivery Service. I got the special edition with the pretty edges. It's a cute story. I love the magic of the book, and Kiki and her talking cat were so cute. And it's an easy read. It's very easy. But I just couldn't get over the fact that Kiki had to leave home and be an adult and learn how to be an adult at 13 years old. That just really, really bothered me, and I found it upsetting. So as an adult who could have been a mother if I had wanted to, I couldn't get past that. Again, maybe if I had read this book when I was younger, I would have loved it. I gave it 3.5 stars just because it's super easy to read. It's cute. The characters are fun. It's not for my demographic, right? And I had wanted to see the movie back in theaters. It was supposed to be being released, but it didn't make it to our theater, which is a bummer. But that's why I read it, and I saw the special edition copy with the edges. I love a good sprayed edge. But maybe if I had read this when I was younger, like 10 to 13, I would have loved Kiki. I know I would have, in her talking cat and her adventures. And what 13-year-old doesn't want to strike out on their own right? When you're 13, you feel like you're grown, you know it all, right? So maybe that's the point. And then I had 4 4-star reviews. I had the Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst. That was such a warm hug. I loved that book. It was so good. It's slow. So go into this book knowing that it's slow. And there's really no action or anything that really, really happens. At the beginning there is, and then at the end there definitely is. But it's a slow story. And the main female character isn't very likable. Okay, a lot of people don't like her. She's very introverted. She loves books more than people. But she has a talking plant, which is so fun. I love her talking plant. I want a talking plant. I loved how cozy this book was. So I wrote, this book is a warm hug. I want to submerge myself in this world. I don't usually like world building, but I love the world building of this book. I wish every politician and billionaire would read this book and understand the message, but I know they wouldn't care. This book is truly a gift when so many of us need an escape from reality right now. I would love to see this made into a blockbuster film. I love the mere horses and mermaids. The love story was sweet, and it really was. And this really was a a crabby sunshine kind of, and not even really enemies to lovers, but it's so cute. And it's, again, another book that you're either gonna love or you're gonna hate. It's 384 pages on Fable. It has a PG romance, no suggestive dialogue. It's cute. So Kaz is the talking plant, and Kaz is so cool. And then, yeah, you just have to read the book. The mythical creatures, the mythical world, it's everything that I wanted Moonstruck to be. When I had read the description of Moonstruck, I wanted Moonstruck to be what the Spellshop was. So I read, Moonstruck after reading the Spellshop and having that emotional feeling of a hug from the Spellshop. I didn't like the aggressiveness and the anger and of Moonstruck. All right, and then this was also a reread. I read 2 rereads this month, or last month, I should say. So I had Mooncakes, and it says, one fateful night, teen witch Nova follows reports of a white wolf in the woods and discovers her childhood crush, werewolf Tamling, battling a horse demon. Now against the background of a slowly rekindling romance, Tam and Nova must investigate the dark supernatural forces, eager to claim wolf magic for evil. So this was just a reread, and I gave it 4 stars, and I kept it at 4 stars. I love the artwork and how autumnal and just beautiful it is. The story is decent. The romance is believable. The friendships are believable. So this is a solid graphic novel. I bought this in Powell's a couple years ago when we went to Portland. So I'm going to keep this book forever. And I've decided it's going to be a reread every autumn. I read a nonfiction book called Do Nothing. And I don't know what it is with so many books that I've been reading, especially lately. The first half is so good and so well researched and amazing. And then the second half, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, the second half, it just falls apart. So this was written by Celeste Hadley, and I listened to it on Audibles. And she's an excellent narrator. I love listening to her. I could listen to her all day. And I wrote, I love part 1 of this book. I love the research and the author's analysis. I found myself saying yes often and agreeing. But then part 2 came along and she contradicted herself from part 1. I felt like this book was classist and elitist. Part 1 feels like it's for workers' rights and humanity, but then part 2 comes along and it feels like it's for managers and the ruling class. And she talks about how when she was a worker, she worked less than when she ran her own business. Which is true. When you run your own business, you work very hard and you work all the time. This book isn't about doing nothing or hacking life. This is a reflection on our idea of work. Work class status is so tied to our image that we don't question the validity of that idea. The main idea is that we should limit our screen time, join groups in real life, have in real life friends not tied to work, schedule time to take a walk, have hobbies that you enjoy, and don't monetize. Community is key. Limiting screen time is key. Our happiness and status shouldn't be tied to work. To me, policy needs to change. Laws need to go on the books to protect workers' rights. Our cultural norms and values need to change. She states that verbal communication is better than text or email. I agree. We spend so much of our day pretending to work and creating difficulties in order to feel justified in putting in 8 or 10 hours on the job. Which I do agree with her that. There's a lot of bullshit and pretending to work and not actually doing anything. I have seen this in office jobs, but it's not true for customer service jobs. This book is for office workers and managers, but if you are in a service job, the work smarter, not harder tips won't apply. This book feels too niche, and I had hoped it would have been more inclusive to all people and workers. And she also discusses how capitalism and work got tied to Christianity, especially in the United States, and how the two have worked together to basically enslave a working class. And then the myths and why people put millionaires and billionaires above their own best interests. So if you want to read it for that, it's a good book. It's a solid book, but like I said, in part 2, she really starts talking about tips for like managers or people who are self-employed or gig workers. And that just doesn't apply. Like if you're an hourly worker and you're at the bottom, you just do what people tell you to do. And then another 4-star was, this book was 4.5 stars. And I did do as you can see, my tabs, an individual review, and I'll link that here. This is a ethnography by a sociologist, Dustin Kiskadon. 4.5 stars, excellent. I only gave it a 0.5 star off because I went in thinking this was a memoir, but it's an excellent book. The beginning, middle, end, so good. A little dry at the beginning, but the research is there. It's cohesive, and just really lots of blood, sweat, and tears went into this book, literally. And then now I had 2 5-star books. One was also another reread and graphic novel. Well, and actually both are graphic novels. I'll start with the reread. This was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. I had read this before, and I think I gave it a 4 or 4.5 stars before, and rereading it, I just absolutely loved it. It's about Josie and Deja, and they work together at this pumpkin patch every fall. And Josie is too afraid of talking to his crush, and he's been crushing on this girl for like 4 years. And Deja here is the outgoing, extrovert, friendly, bisexual, strong and outgoing person to Josie's introverted, shy, timid person. So they go looking for his crush, and they get sent all over the park. It's they're seniors. It's their last year working, and they just are walking around the park and trying to find her, and they can't. And they're talking the whole way, and Josie wants to be more like Deja, and she keeps running into people from the pumpkin patch that she's dated. She's encouraging him, to talk to his crush. And it's about their friendship and why, like, they're wondering why they're only friends when they work, when they're such good friends. But I love the artwork, and it makes me, there's food in here that I've never had and never heard of, because this is a pumpkin patch from the Midwest, and I grew up on the East Coast, and now I live in the Southwest, so it's very different. But I love reading the description. Rainbow Rowell is the award-winning #1 New York Times bestselling author of Eleanor and Park, Carry On, Wayward Son, and more. She made her comic debut as a writer of Marvel's monthly Runaway series. Pumpkinheads is her first graphic novel. She lives and writes in Omaha, Nebraska, home of the world's best pumpkin patches. I want to go to Nebraska, to their pumpkin patch, and get the food that's talked about in this book, and experience that. I think it would be a lot of fun. This second one is Unfamiliar by Haley Newsome, also 5 stars. Meet Planchette, a lonely young kitchen witch. She has high hopes for her new home, a place where she can finally be herself and maybe even make friends. Unfortunately, she discovers that her perfect house is haunted, really haunted. Ghosts live in the paintings, they crawl on the ceilings, and they pour out of the faucets. So it's about her moving town. So it's like an updated, Planchette is a grown-up, updated version of Kiki. And I'm trying to find Kiki's So this is a 13-year-old girl, and I would say she's like maybe 18 to 20, anywhere in that range. So they're similar, and they're both like on their own and like trying to make friends. And I just love the artwork of this book. And I love the story of a witch who had no witch friends, making friends with other witches and coming together and trying to discover their magic and their power within themselves to live alone. And so this is volume 1. There's a second volume. I can't wait to read it. I have to order it. I love the artwork. I love the story. I mean, it's just so spooky cute, and it's just, I love it. Like, I can't tell you guys how much I love it. So if you're looking for a fun, witchy, grown-up version of Kiki's delivery service, Unfamiliar is that for you. So fun. I hope you enjoyed this long, overview of my month. So it's been 13 books for the month of October, plus, in November, I finished reading the library book, Blood and Lightning, and I DNF'd a book. That was the Halloween anthology. Thanks for watching. Happy November. I hope you all had a happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time.